Lyra Vance stepped out of the shuttle with her small travel bag slung over one shoulder and her heart beating hard in her chest. The Interstellar Vanguard Academy rose before her like a city made of steel and glass, tall towers shining under the twin suns. Hundreds of recruits from dozens of species walked around her, most of them taller, broader, or more heavily armored than she could ever be. Some had 4 arms, some had glowing skin, some had long tails that stretched behind them with every step. Lyra was the smallest person in sight, but she tried to stand straight, even if the weight of the moment felt heavy on her back. The Academy was the most advanced military and exploration school in the known galaxy. Only the strongest, smartest, and most determined beings were accepted. Lyra had worked for years just to earn a chance to be here. She had trained every day, studied every manual, and passed every evaluation. But now that she was actually inside the Academy grounds, she felt something she had not expected. Small, very small. Her short height, thin frame, and simple colony standard gear stood out among the tall, proud and powerful recruits around her. She tried to ignore the curious looks and the soft whispers, but it was hard not to hear them. "Is that a child?" Someone muttered. "No human," another replied. "Tiny ones. Very fragile." Lyra clenched her jaw but did not turn her head. She had promised herself she would not react, no matter what they said. Humans had only recently joined the greater galaxy. And even though many species respected human creativity and adaptability, others still saw humans as weak or untested. Lyra knew she could not change their minds with words. She would have to show them. She followed the crowd to the main plaza, where orientation would begin. A huge holographic sphere floated above the stage, showing the Academy emblem, a bright star surrounded by 3 silver rings. Recruits took their places in wide rows, sorted by their assigned divisions. Lyra looked for Division A-12 where she had been placed as she walked. The ground trembled under heavy footsteps. The recruits around her suddenly parted, clearing a wide path. Lyra turned to see what was coming, and her breath caught. A giant figure walked toward the plaza, towering above all others. His tall, armored body was covered in dark scaled plates that reflected the sunlight. His shoulders were broad enough to block the view behind him. His claws clicked softly against the ground, and his tail moved with slow, controlled precision. His eyes glowed faintly amber under heavy bone ridges. A predocked apex hunter, one of the most feared and respected species in the galaxy. Born for combat, trained from youth for strength, speed, and precision. Apex hunters did not often join the Academy, and when they did, they were treated like walking weapons. Rhazkaar. Lyra remembered his name from the recruit list. His presence alone made the air feel heavier. Recruits whispered and stepped back as he passed. But when his gaze swept across the crowd, it paused on her. Lyra felt her spine tighten. She had not done anything. She had not even spoken. But for some reason, the apex hunter was looking directly at her. His eyes narrowed slightly, not in threat, but in something else. Something like curiosity. The moment lasted only a second before he looked away and continued walking, but Lyra felt it like a weight in her chest. Why had he looked at her like that? She took a deep breath and kept walking to the assigned row. As she took her place, she felt her heart still beating too fast. She hoped she would not stand near the apex hunter again. His presence made her feel even smaller. The orientation began with a deep voice echoing across the plaza. Instructors from different species stood on the stage, explaining rules, schedules, expectations, and the Academy's strict code of conduct. Lyra tried her best to focus on the information, but her attention kept drifting. She noticed strange things. Doors on the far side of the plaza sealed themselves with heavy metal locks, even though no one went near them. 2 instructors stood close together, whispering something while looking at the recruits not with pride, but with worry. Security drones hovered in odd patterns, scanning small groups again and again. Lyra was good at noticing things. Growing up on a distant frontier colony taught her to pay attention to details. People often missed danger unless they looked closely. Something was off here, but she could not understand what. After orientation, the recruits moved toward the training halls for equipment assignment. Lyra walked, with her bag held tightly against her side. She hoped that once training began, she could focus and forget the strange feeling twisting inside her stomach. But as she reached the entrance of the equipment hall, she heard heavy steps behind her. She froze for a moment, knowing exactly who they belonged to. Razkar, the apex hunter, stopped beside her. His tall shadow fell across her as easily as a curtain. She tried to act calm. He did not speak. He simply looked at her again, his eyes unblinking. Up close, she could see the fine patterns on his armored scales, sharp and detailed like ancient carvings. She swallowed and looked forward, pretending not to notice him. But then he did something unexpected. He stepped slightly aside, as if making space for her to walk through the door first. Lyra blinked. That was strange. Apex hunters did not show courtesy in such a way. They were proud, direct, and not known for soft manners. "Thank you," Lyra said quietly. Razkar dipped his head once, barely a movement. Then he followed her inside. The equipment hall was wide and filled with racks of gear. Recruits moved between stations to receive their uniforms, armor modules, and training weapons. Lyra stepped into the line, trying to focus on the process. A tall instructor scanned her ID badge and looked down at her with raised eyebrows. "You are smaller than the standard size range," the instructor said. "We will adjust your armor modules, but some equipment may not fit." "It's okay," Lyra replied calmly. "I'll work with what I have." The instructor nodded but looked unconvinced. Lyra ignored it. She would not let anything stop her. As she finished collecting her gear, someone bumped into her shoulder on purpose. A tall reptilian recruit snorted. "Careful, little human. This is a place for warriors, not tiny children." Lyra steadied her equipment and kept her expression calm. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." The reptilian laughed and walked away. Lyra sighed quietly. The academy was going to be difficult. She had expected that. What she had not expected was the quiet voice beside her. "You did not react," Razkar said. Standing only a few steps away, Lyra turned her head in surprise. "Why would I?" "Predic hunters watch weakness and strength," he said. "Silence in the face of insult is rare among recruits." Lyra frowned a little. "Well, I'm not here to fight other students. I just want to complete my training." Razkar observed her for a moment longer, then nodded once. "Noted." He walked away without another word. Lyra watched him go, confused. Why was he paying attention to her at all? Out of hundreds of recruits, why her? She had never met him before today. She shook her head and tried to push the thought away. Training began that afternoon. The first exercise was a basic mobility course, but even the basic level was harsh. Tall walls, shifting platforms, and heavy weights blocked the path. Most recruits had bodies built for strength or speed. But Lyra had to rely on balance and quick thinking. She climbed, jumped, and dodged, her small size helping her slip through narrow spaces. Some recruits struggled with sections she passed easily, but when she reached the tall wall near the end, her arms trembled. The wall was twice her height. She had to climb without assistance. She took a deep breath and jumped, grabbing the first handhold. Her muscles strained. She pulled herself up slowly, inch by inch, her breath shaking. Her fingers slipped once, but she held on. Sweat ran down her forehead. Then she reached the top. She rolled over the edge and dropped to the ground on the other side, landing on her feet. A small smile spread across her face. Maybe she could do this after all, but before she could take another step, a loud crack echoed across the training field. The ground vibrated under her feet. A metal support beam on the obstacle behind her snapped. Sparks burst out. The heavy structure began to fall directly toward her. Lyra froze for a split second. There was no time to run, no time to think. But before the structure could crash down, a massive shadow moved. Razkar appeared in front of her with incredible speed. He pushed her aside, his armored body taking the impact as the metal slammed into his back and tail. The ground shook. Lyra gasped. "Are you hurt?" Razkar stood tall, unharmed, but his eyes were sharp. Too sharp. "That beam was secured this morning," he said quietly. "It should not have failed." Lyra felt the chill again. Something was wrong at the academy. As Razkar walked with her toward the exit, he spoke in a low voice. "Be watchful, Lyra Vance. There are eyes watching you. Eyes that do not belong to any student or instructor here." Lyra felt her stomach twist. "What do you mean?" But Razkar gave no answer. He simply moved ahead, his heavy steps echoing through the training hall. Lyra knew one thing for certain. Her first day at the academy was not just difficult, it was dangerous, and she had no idea why a powerful apex hunter was watching her so closely. Lyra Vance woke up the next morning with her muscles aching from the previous day's training. Her arms felt sore, her legs felt heavy, and a small bruise formed on her left shoulder where she had hit the ground after Razkar pushed her out of danger. But she did not complain. Pain meant she was getting stronger. Pain meant progress. She got dressed in her academy uniform, adjusted the size strap so it fit better, and tied her boots tightly. As she looked at herself in the small mirror, she noticed how small she looked compared to the standard human recruit. She wondered again why the academy had accepted her, but she pushed the thought away. She earned her place. She belonged here when she walked into the hallway. She noticed that other recruits were already moving toward the training grounds. Some of them talked loudly about the first day, about who finished the obstacle course fastest and who fell off the rotating platforms. But when Lyra passed them, many went quiet. A few stared at her with confusion or annoyance. They had all seen Razkar save her, and that made Lyra stand out more than she wanted. Some recruits whispered as she walked. She tried not to listen, but a few words reached her. Why would an apex hunter help a human? She must be his chosen target for training. No, it's something else. Hunters don't protect people. Lyra kept walking, pretending she did not hear. She did not understand anything about Predic culture, but even she knew that apex hunters usually trained alone. They did not form bonds. They did not protect others unless ordered. So why had he saved her? When she reached the training field, the instructors were setting up new exercises. Today's schedule included endurance running, strategy drills, and live simulation combat. Lyra felt nervous about the last part. She had trained with simple combat programs back home, but the Academy's simulations were known to be extremely realistic. Razkar was already there. Standing on the far side of the field with a group of larger recruits, his tall frame and dark armor scales made him impossible to miss. Lyra looked away quickly before he could notice her watching. The morning began with a long endurance run around the Academy grounds. The track circled massive towers, training halls, and open courtyards. Some recruits ran easily, their bodies built for speed or stamina. Others struggled. Lyra fell somewhere in the middle. Her short legs made it hard to keep pace with taller recruits. But she focused on her breathing and her rhythm. Step, breathe, step, breathe. Do not fall behind. Do not quit. Halfway through the run, she noticed something strange. A drone hovered above the course, following her more than the other recruits. It moved slowly, scanning her with a faint blue light. At first she thought she imagined it, but when she changed lanes, the drone changed too. When she slowed down, the drone slowed. When she sped up, it sped up. Lyra frowned. Why would a drone track her specifically? Before she could think more, another recruit bumped her from behind, making her stumble. She caught her balance and kept running. The recruit, a tall insectoid with sharp legs, hissed softly. Watch where you go, human. Lyra did not argue. The drone still followed. When the run ended, she took a moment to catch her breath. As she crouched down, she looked up again. The drone was gone, completely vanished. She felt uneasy. First, the broken beam yesterday. Now a tracking drone. Something was happening around her, but she did not know what. The next part of training took place in the strategy hall. Recruits were divided into teams and placed inside a holographic simulation. The room transformed into a battlefield, filled with glowing terrain and moving obstacles. Lyra's team included 3 recruits: a tall blue-skinned humanoid named Theron, a short but strong mineral-bodied creature named Ran, and a silent avian recruit named Kailu. None of them talked much, but they followed instructions. Lyra quickly took charge of the plan. Theron, take the left high ground. Kailu, stay above us and watch for enemy movement. Ran, you follow me? We keep low, move fast, and surprise them from below. Theron raised an eyebrow. You are leading? Lyra nodded. Yes, it's the simplest plan. Fast and flexible. Ran shrugged, his stone-like shoulders making a grinding sound. Let the human try. When the simulation began, Lyra's team moved exactly as planned. She guided them through narrow paths, using her small size to scout ahead. She spotted enemy signals and warned her team in time. They captured 2 objectives before the enemy even realized they were surrounded. The simulation ended with Lyra's team beating 2 larger teams. Theron looked surprised. Humans think fast. Lyra smiled a little. We practice a lot. But her smile faded when she looked across the room. RHAZKAAR was watching her again. Not with judgment or suspicions. Something else. Something she could not name. When lunch break began, she tried to avoid him by walking to the far corner of the cafeteria. She picked up a simple meal of protein cubes and noodles and sat alone at a small table. Most recruits sat with their own species or division groups. Lyra did not mind sitting alone. She liked quiet moments, but peace did not last long. She heard a thump, heavy and solid, as someone sat across from her. She looked up slowly. RHZKAA. The apex hunter folded his arms and stared at her silently. Lyra blinked, unsure what to say. Hello, she said softly. He studied her for several seconds before speaking. You ran well this morning. Lyra was almost too shocked to respond. Apex hunters did not give compliments. Oh, thank you, she said awkwardly. You also led your strategy team to victory, he added. She nodded. We worked well together. Raskar leaned forward slightly. Your mind sees the field differently from others. Lyra tried to smile, but her confusion grew. Why was he paying attention to everything she did? She gathered her courage and asked, Why? Are you always watching me? Raskar did not answer immediately. His eyes glowed faintly. You are not like the others, he said quietly. You face challenges without complaint. You adapt quickly. You do not show fear when others try to provoke you. Lyra felt her cheeks grow warm. I just want to do well here. Many want to do well, he said. But few continue moving forward when the path becomes difficult. Lyra opened her mouth to respond, but before she could speak, the cafeteria lights flickered. The ground vibrated softly underfoot. Everyone looked up in confusion. A loud alarm echoed through the hall. Security alert? Unauthorized access detected in Level 3 equipment storage. All recruits stay where you are, recruits began whispering. Level 3 was a restricted zone. Only instructors and security officers were allowed there. Lyra's heart raced. Something was wrong again. Raskar straightened. This disturbance is not random. You think it's connected to yesterday? Lyra asked quietly. I know it is, he replied. Before Lyra could ask more, an instructor entered the cafeteria. Raskar, the instructor called out sharply. You are requested by Security Command immediately. Raskar stood without hesitation. Before he left, he turned his head slightly toward Lyra. Stay alert, he said. Do not trust unusual silence. Lyra watched him leave, feeling uneasy again. After lunch, the recruits returned to training. The final event of the day was a live combat simulation inside the combat dome. This simulation used hard light holograms that could hit, block, and react like real opponents. Lyra entered the dome with her training weapon and stood ready. Her heart pounded with nervous energy. The simulation began. Enemies formed around her. Humanoid shapes made of glowing blue light. They moved fast, attacking with coordinated patterns. Lyra dodged the first strike, rolled under a second, blocked a third with her weapon. She kept moving, staying low, using her speed to outmaneuver the larger opponents. But the simulation became harder. More enemies appeared. She slipped once and felt a hard hit against her side. Pain shot through her ribs. She forced herself to keep fighting. Then she noticed something strange. One of the holographic enemies glitched. Its form flickered blue to static, static to red B for returning to normal. That was not supposed to happen. The simulation core never malfunctioned. She dodged another attack and stepped back, trying to understand what she just saw. But before she could think, all the enemies froze at once. The dome lights shut off for a moment before emergency lights clicked on. A voice echoed through the dome. Simulation terminated due to system error. All recruits exit the field. Lyra walked out with the others. Some recruits complained loudly. What a waste of time. System error. Impossible. Lyra looked around, feeling watched again. She remembered Rezkar's warning. Someone was watching her, someone not part of the academy, as she exited the training dome. She noticed a small metal object on the ground near the entrance. It was half hidden under a bench. She crouched and picked it up. A tiny black chip. Not academy standard. Her fingers closed around it, and a chill ran down her spine. Someone had tampered with the simulation not to attack the recruits. To target her, she stood slowly. Her heart beat loud in her ears. She needed answers. She needed to tell someone. But when she looked toward the far end of the hall, she saw a tall, familiar figure returning .RHAZKAR. He walked toward her with heavy, controlled steps. His eyes focused on the closed fist holding the chip. "You found something?" he said. Lyra nodded. "Someone is trying to sabotage training. Someone is targeting me." Raskar lowered his voice. "Then the danger is growing faster than I expected." Lyra swallowed hard. "Why me?" Raskar looked down at her, his expression unreadable. "Because someone believes that you are important. More important than you know?" Lyra felt a wave of fear and confusion. Important? How? Before she could ask, Raskar spoke again. "I will not let them harm you." "This I swear." Lyra stared up at him, speechless. The smallest recruit in the academy, protected by the galaxy's apex predator, and somewhere in the academy someone wanted that protection broken. Lyra Vance walked through the dim hallway with the small black chip hidden in her pocket. Every step felt heavier than the last. Something dangerous was happening inside the academy, something that involved her, but she still did not know why. She kept her head down, watching the floor as she made her way back toward her dorm building. The evening lights glowed softly across the ceiling, but even their warmth did not calm her fears. Raskar walked beside her, silent as always. His tall figure cast a long shadow over her, making her look even smaller. But tonight, Lyra did not feel annoyed by it. She felt strangely safer. Even if she did not understand him, she knew one thing clearly now. Raskar was watching over her. When they reached the end of the hallway, Raskar stopped. Lyra stopped too and turned to look up at him. "You should rest," he said. "Tomorrow's training will be difficult." Lyra nodded slowly. "Are you going to scan the chip?" Raskar's eyes narrowed. "Yes. It may contain information about whoever is targeting you." Lyra hesitated, then she asked the question, sitting heavy in her chest. "And if the chip shows something dangerous, what will you do?" Raskar leaned down slightly, his voice low but firm. "Then I will find whoever is responsible." Lyra opened her mouth, but no words came out. She simply nodded and quietly said, "Good night, Raskar." Raskar dipped his head once in return. "Good night, Lyra Vance." She walked toward her dorm room, her small steps echoing softly. As she reached her door, something made her stop. A cold feeling. A whisper of danger. Her door was slightly open. She had closed it. When she left earlier, she slowly scanned her ID badge and pushed the door open. The lights flickered on, revealing her small room. Nothing looked out of place: her small bed, her folded uniforms, her desk, her data pad. But Lyra knew something was wrong. Someone had searched her room. She stepped inside carefully and checked her drawers. One drawer stood open by half an inch. She had shut it completely that morning. Her datapad had been moved slightly. She felt her heartbeat speed up. Someone was looking for something. Or someone. Lyra backed out of the room and closed the door. She ran down the hallway and turned the corner quickly, nearly crashing into Roskar's leg. He looked down sharply. "Why are you running?" "Someone was in my room," she said breathlessly. Raskar tensed immediately. His eyes darkened. "Show me." They walked back together. Raskar entered first, examining everything carefully. His tail moved slowly side to side as he looked around. When he finished, he turned to face her. "You are correct," he said. Someone searched the room. But they were careful not to leave marks or traces. Lyra felt cold. "Why? Don't have anything important." Raskar stepped closer. "You have something they want. Even if you do not know what it is yet." Right. Lyra shook her head. "But I'm no one special. I'm just a normal human from a small colony." Raskar stared at her in silence for a long moment before speaking. "You are not ordinary, Lyra Vance. You carry something rare."
Lyra blinked.
"What do you mean?" Raskar did not answer immediately. Instead, he motioned for her to sit on the bed while he stood in front of her like a solid shield. "In Pred culture," he began slowly, "apex hunters are guided by instinct and by ancient tradition. We are trained from birth to sense strength and weakness, not physical strength. Not only that, something deeper." Lyra listened closely, her heart steady but her mind spinning. "In our history," Raskar continued, "there is a trait called the spark of the unbroken. It is a hidden fire inside certain beings, a will that does not bend even when everything else breaks." Lyra felt confused. "And what does that have to do with me?" Raskar lowered his head, meeting her eyes directly. "I saw the spark in you the moment you arrived. You walked through the academy gates surrounded by giant recruits, by laughter and doubt, yet you stood straight. You did not shrink. You did not fear." Lyra looked away. "I was terrified." Raskar shook his head. "Fear is natural, but you moved anyway. That is the difference." Lyra could not speak. She wasn't used to someone describing her that way, especially not someone like him. Raskar's deep voice continued. "Our tradition says that if a hunter sees the spark in another, he must protect that person. Not as a servant, not as a soldier. As a guardian." Lyra stared at him in shock. "So you're protecting me because of some ancient predoc rule?" "Yes," he answered simply, "but also because I choose to." She swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. Before she could speak, Raskar suddenly turned his head toward the door. His claws extended slightly. "Someone is approaching," he whispered. Lyra stood quickly. "Who?" Raskar motioned for her to stay silent. Then he stepped in front of her, blocking her from view. Heavy footsteps came down the hall. The door beeped once. Lyra held her breath. The door slid open. Instructor Halden, a tall, stern-looking humanoid with silver hair, stepped inside. He paused when he saw Raskar standing like a dark mountain in the center of the room. "Instructor," Raskar said carefully. Halden nodded once. "I received a report of a security concern near this hallway. Are you both unharmed?" Lyra stepped out slightly from behind Raskar. "Yes, sir. Someone may have entered my room earlier." Halden's face hardened. "We will investigate immediately. But for now, you should remain with a group or with your division." He glanced at Raskar. "And you, Hunter you, are requested in the command wing again. Your presence is needed for questioning regarding the Level 3 breach." Raskar's tail moved once in annoyance. "I will go when I finish escorting Lyra to safety." Halden raised an eyebrow. "Escort?" Raskar's voice deepened. "She is under my watch." Halden studied the apex hunter for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Very well. But do not be late." When he left, the door slid shut again. Lyra let out the breath she had been holding. "Why does security keep asking for you?" Raskar growled softly in frustration. "They distrust Predok hunters. They believe I am hiding something, are you?" Lyra asked softly. Raskar paused. "I hide nothing that threatens the academy. Only truths they may not understand." Lyra nodded slowly. "What should we do now?" Raskar motioned to the door. "Walk with me. We must speak to a person I trust." They left the dorm areas and walked toward the lower levels of the academy. Few recruits came here at night. The hallway lights were dim, giving the whole place an eerie feeling. Lyra felt a shiver go down her spine. "Are you sure this is safe?" "Nothing is safe here anymore," Razkar replied. They reached a small laboratory room. The door opened with a quiet hiss. Inside, a thin alien stood at a workbench surrounded by holographic screens. His narrow eyes and long fingers made him look delicate, but Lyra sensed that he was clever. "Raskar," the alien said. "I assume this is the human?" Raskar nodded. "This is Lyra Vance. She found this chip." He placed the black chip onto the table. The alien, named Vale, picked up the chip carefully. "Interesting. This is not Academy technology." Lyra stepped closer. "Can you scan it?" Vale nodded and inserted the chip into a small device. The screen above them flickered before displaying a series of encrypted symbols. Vale's eyes widened. "This is a Meridian encryption pattern." Lyra blinked. "What's Meridian?" Raskar growled. "A rogue faction. A group of extremists who fear humanity's rising influence. They believe humans grow too fast, learn too fast, adapt too fast." Lyra felt her heart squeeze. "They want to destroy humans?" Vale shook his head slowly. "Not all humans. Only the ones they see as threats," Lyra whispered. "But I'm not a threat. I'm just a recruit." Vale's expression tightened. "According to the data in this chip, the Meridian regime believes you are a key individual. They think your potential could influence future alliances." Lyra stared in confusion. "But I'm nobody important." Raskar leaned closer. "You are important enough for them to fear." Lyra shook her head again. "This doesn't make sense." Vale typed quickly, then stopped. "There is more. The chip contains a list of targets." Lyra's chest tightened. "Am I on the list?" Vale's voice lowered. "Yes. And Raskar is listed too." Lyra felt her blood freeze. "Why him?" Raskar answered quietly. "Because I protect you. And they want that protection removed." Silence filled the room. Lyra stepped back, her breathing shaky. "This is too much." "Why would they go this far?" Vale switched off the screen. "Because if they can kill you and blame Raskar for it, they can trigger a war between humans and Predek." Lyra felt sick. "A war?" Raskar nodded stiffly. "Yes. And war is what the Meridian regime wants." Lyra felt dizzy. She sat on the nearest chair, her hands shaking. "I don't know what to do." Raskar walked to her side. His presence was steady, grounding. "You do not need to know everything today," he said. "You only need to do one thing." Lyra looked up. "What?" "Stay alive," Raskar said softly. "And trust that I will keep you safe." Lyra swallowed hard. "I trust you." Raskar bowed his head. Then Vale straightened suddenly. "Someone is accessing the security feed outside. We must leave now." Raskar grabbed the chip and pulled Lyra close. "Stay behind me." They rushed out of the lab and into the hallway. Lyra felt her fear growing, but she stayed close to Raskar's steps. Someone was already trying to stop them. The Meridian regime knew they had discovered the truth, and now they were coming. The night inside the academy was quiet, but the quiet felt wrong. It felt like the silence before thunder, the stillness before something broke. Lyra walked beside Raskar through a dim hallway where only small blue lights glowed on the walls. The academy usually felt busy even at night, with recruits moving between late training shifts or talking loudly in common rooms. But now everything felt empty, like the whole building was holding its breath. Raskar walked a step ahead of her, his tall body tense, his sharp senses alert. His claws were not extended, but Lyra noticed they twitched from time to time, ready to strike if needed. He scanned every shadow, every corner, every vent, as if he expected danger at any second. Lyra felt the air grow colder. She wrapped her arms around herself, wishing she had worn an extra layer under her uniform. She tried to keep her voice steady when she spoke. "Do you think they know we are searching?" she asked quietly. Raskar did not look at her. His eyes stayed fixed on the path ahead. "They know," he said. "They observe every move we make, but they do not understand how humans act when hunted. They think you will hide. He finally turned his head slightly. "You do not hide." Lyra tried to smile, but the fear in her stomach made it weak. "No point hiding if they will find me anyway. Better to find them first." Razkar gave a low growl of approval. "Good thinking." The spark of the unbroken burns bright. She still did not fully understand what that meant, but the way he said it made her feel a little stronger. They reached a sealed maintenance door. The last time Lyra found strange encrypted messages, they were traced to terminals near the engineering sections. If the Meridian regime had a secret base inside the academy, it would be somewhere with access to tech systems. Lyra crouched near the door. Panel and pulled out the small hacking tool she carried. It wasn't standard issue, but many recruits had unofficial gadgets. She wasn't the best tech expert in the academy, but she had grown up on a frontier colony. People there learned to fix machines by themselves, or nothing got done. The screen flickered. "Locked," Lyra whispered. "But not impossible. I can try to break the code." Razkar crouched behind her, his heavy presence like a wall guarding her back. "Do it. I will watch for movement." The panel beeped softly as Lyra worked. She typed fast, bypassing safety locks, separating code layers. Sweat formed on her forehead. Every small beep made her nervous. If someone was monitoring system access, they might already know what she was doing. A soft metallic click sounded through the hallway. Razkar stiffened instantly. "Someone is coming," he whispered. Lyra froze. Her heart slammed against her ribs. "Almost done," she mouthed silently. Footsteps echoed down the hall, multiple fast, steady. She recognized those steps. Academy security, but not the normal patrol. These steps marched in tight, precise rhythm. Razkar leaned close. "They are not here to escort. They are here to eliminate." Lyra felt cold fear seize her throat. The door panel flashed green. "Got it," she whispered. The door slid open with a dull, metallic sound. Razkar pushed her inside first, then followed. He closed the door quietly behind them. Inside, the room was dark, except for weak lights on machines. It smelled like dust and old metal. Lyra waited for her eyes to adjust. Footsteps stopped outside the door. "Someone tried the panel. Override locked," a voice said. "Someone opened this door manually." "Start forced entry." Razkar pulled Lyra deeper into the room, away from the door. "They will break through soon. We must keep moving." They found a ladder leading down into an underground service tunnel. Lyra climbed first, Razkar following easily despite his size. The tunnel was narrow and long, filled with cables and pipes. The sound of their footsteps echoed softly. "Oh, why are they moving so fast?" Lyra whispered. Razkar answered without slowing. "Because we are close to the truth. The regime does not want you alive long enough to show proof." Lyra swallowed hard. "So they know I'm the target." "You are not the only one," Razkar said. "If they kill me too, they remove the only witness who can defend you, and they destroy the symbol of peace between our species." Lyra thought about that. The weight of it scared her, but also made her determined. She didn't want to be a symbol. She just wanted to survive and do the right thing. The tunnel split into 3 paths. Lyra checked the small map she downloaded earlier. "We need to go left. That leads to the lower data core." Razkar nodded. "Then we go left." As they moved, Lyra noticed the tunnel lights flickering. She felt something watching them from the dark. She almost turned around when she heard a faint metal scrape behind them. Razkar stopped suddenly. His ears pressed back. His entire body shifted into a hunter's stance. "Something follows," he said softly. Lyra held her breath. A shadow moved behind them. Then another. "More than one?" Razkar reached out and gently pushed her behind him. "Stay close. Move when I move." Shapes emerged from the darkness. Regime operatives. Their armor was black with no insignia. Their visors glowed red. Silent, cold, and deadly, Razkar growled, louder this time. "Cowards, hiding in tunnels." The first operative lunged. Razkar moved faster than Lyra expected for someone his size. He grabbed the attacker's arm and twisted, throwing him into the wall. The second operative rushed forward with a stun blade. Lyra ducked just in time as the blade slashed. The air above her, she grabbed a loose pipe from the ground and swung it with all her strength. It hit the operative's knee, making him stumble. Razkar finished him with a swift strike, but more operatives poured in. "We can't fight all of them," Lyra shouted. "We do not need to," Razkar said. "We only need to reach the data core." They ran. Operatives chased them, their boots clanging loudly. Lyra's small size helped her slip through tight spaces in the tunnel. Razkar smashed through obstacles that slowed the operatives. They finally reached a larger chamber filled with machinery. Blue screens glowed faintly on the walls. "This is part of the data core," Lyra said breathlessly. "If we reach the main console, we can pull the regime files." Razkar checked the entrance. "They are seconds behind us." Lyra sprinted to the main console and began working quickly. Her hands shook, but she forced herself to focus. She knew this could save them or doom them. As she worked, Razkar fought anyone who got close. The room echoed with heavy impacts, growls, and metal scraping. Lyra heard every sound, but kept her eyes on the screen. Come on," she whispered. The console beeped loudly. "Access granted." Lyra exhaled in relief and began downloading the files. She saw messages, plans, and lists of targets. Her name, Raskar's name. Detailed steps explaining how to frame them. "I found it," she shouted. RHAZKAR didn't answer. She turned to see him surrounded by 3 operatives. He was bleeding from a cut on his shoulder, but still stood strong. "Razkar," she yelled. He roared and knocked one enemy back. But the others kept coming. Lyra grabbed the downloaded data drive and ran toward him. She ducked under a swinging blade and hit an operative with the drive itself, surprising him long enough for Razkar to finish him. "We have the proof," she said. "We have to escape." Razkar nodded, breathing heavy. "Then stay close. We leave together." They ran back into the tunnels, chased by more operatives. Lyra's heart raced. Every step felt like the ground might collapse. But she held the drive tightly. As they reached a ventilation shaft, Razkar lifted her first. "Go. I will cover you." "I'm not leaving you," Lyra protested. Razkar's eyes softened. "You carry the proof. You must survive. I will follow." Lyra climbed quickly, pulling herself through the shaft. She reached down to help Razkar. He grabbed her hand and pulled himself up just as the operatives reached the shaft entrance. They slammed the grate shut. Trapping the attackers below, both of them breathed hard in the narrow space. Lyra held up the drive. "We have everything. The Academy will know the truth." Razkar nodded. "Yes, but the regime will not stop. They will come again." Lyra swallowed her fear and looked ahead. "Then we will be ready." Together, they crawled through the vent toward the upper levels, carrying proof that could change the future of the Academy and possibly the galaxy itself. Lyra and Razkar crawled through the narrow vent, their breaths loud in the cramped metal space. Lyra held the data drive tightly in one hand, afraid that if she blinked too long it might vanish. Razkar followed right behind her, his larger body scraping softly against the vent walls. The sound made Lyra nervous, as if the metal might give way. "We are close to the upper level," Lyra whispered, trying not to let fear take over. "If we reach the main hall, we can access the Academy's broadcast system." Razkar nodded, his voice low. "Yes, but the regime will know where we are heading. They will try to block our path." Lyra's heart tightened. Let them try. We already came this far. The vent ended with a small grate. Lyra pushed it open slowly and peeked out. The hallway outside was empty, but brightly lit. The contrast almost painful after the dark tunnels. She climbed out first, landing quietly on the floor. Razkar followed, dropping with a heavy but controlled thud. Lyra looked around carefully. "We need to get to the central hall." Razkar stood beside her, his claws slightly extended, ready for trouble. "Stay close. You have the proof. They will come for you first." Lyra nodded and held the drive tighter. They started moving. The hallway stretched long and straight, with tall windows showing the night sky outside. Stars glowed like cold silver dust against the darkness. Lyra felt small again, but not weak. The drive in her hand was more important than anything she had ever carried. Just as they reached the corner, Raskar stopped suddenly. He raised a hand for silence. Lyra held her breath. Voices came from the next hallway. Calm, confident voices. Secure every entrance, a man said. She cannot reach the hall. Kill the human. Capture the pre-duck alive. He is needed for the final step of the plan. Lyra felt her stomach twist. Rezkar's face turned dark and cold. Cowards. They want war. They know killing you will ignite it. Lyra swallowed. We can't fight them all. Not like this. Raskar looked down at her. Then we do not fight all of them. We break through fast. Together. Lyra nodded, fear mixing with determination. Together. They moved around the corner and immediately came face to face with 6 regime operatives. Their armor was black and sleek, and every visor turned red in recognition. Target found, one operative said. Lyra and Raskar ran. Blaster shots fired. Sparks flew from walls. Raskar shielded Lyra with his body, growling as he pushed forward with unstoppable force. Lyra kept her head low and sprinted as fast as she could. 2 operatives blocked the path ahead. Raskar lunged first. His claws slashed through the operatives' weapons, tearing them apart. Lyra dodged behind him, darting through an open space.
Keep going!
Raskar roared. Lyra didn't look back. She ran straight toward the main hall doors. The hall was huge. It's an open chamber with tall pillars and a giant holographic display in the center. This was where announcements, messages, and news were broadcast to the entire academy. If she reached the console, she could upload the proof. Raskar reached her side. Breathing heavily, but still strong. Seal the doors. Lyra shouted, RHAZKAAR. Hit the panel beside the entrance. The heavy doors slammed shut just as regime operatives reached them. Boom. The doors shook. They were trying to break in. Lyra ran to the central console and activated it. The screen lit up with a soft blue glow. Please work, she whispered as she inserted the data drive. The console scanned the drive. A loading bar appeared. Raskar stood near the doors, claws fully extended. The metal shook under heavy impacts. Hurry, Lyra. They have explosives. The doors will not hold long. Lyra tapped the screen rapidly. I'm trying. The system is slow. The doors boomed again. A small dent appeared. Raskar growled. I will stop them as long as I can. Lyra turned her head. Don't you dare die. Not now. Raskar glanced at her, his eyes bright. I will not fall. Not while you stand. The loading bar reached 80%. The dent in the doors grew wider. Raskar stood ready. Muscles tensed. 90%. The console beeped. A message flashed, asterisk, asterisk, upload ready. Broadcast. Asterisk, asterisk. Lyra slammed her hand on the screen. Yes. Do it! She shouted. The console lights brightened. The hologram in the center of the hall flickered, then showed the regime's hidden messages, their plans, their targets. Her face, Rezkar's face. Lists of instructions to assassinate her and frame different species. Moments later, the broadcast extended to every terminal, every screen. Every training room in the academy. The truth was out. The doors exploded inward. Smoke filled the hall. Operatives rushed inside. Raskar roared and charged, colliding with the first wave like a storm. He fought fiercely, pushing back attackers even while wounded. Lyra ducked behind a pillar, but an operative spotted her. He raised his weapon. Human cadet, surrender. Lyra picked up a fallen baton and threw it. It hit the operative's helmet with a loud crack. He stumbled. RHAZKAR pounced on him from the side and knocked him out. More operatives kept coming. Lyra crawled across the floor toward Raskar. We need to escape before reinforcements come. Raskar grabbed her arm and pulled her to her feet. Move. As they ran toward a side exit, a loud alarm echoed across the academy. Asterisk, attention, all recruits and officers. Unauthorized operatives detected. Evidence of conspiracy confirmed. Stand down and assist in capture. Asterisk Lyra dared to hope. The broadcast was working. Regime operatives began to falter. Some turned to retreat. Academy security forces arrived, surrounding the hall. The regime had lost. Lyra leaned against a wall, breathing hard. Razkar stood beside her, bleeding from several wounds, but still watching her with a calm, steady gaze. "It is over," he said quietly. Lyra shook her head. "No, not over. But the worst part is finished." Security forces rushed in, detaining the remaining operatives. Officers saluted Lyra and Razkar with respect, something she had never expected. The academy commander himself entered the hall. His uniform was sharp, his expression serious. "Cadet Lyra Vance," he said. "A human recruit uncovering a galaxy-level conspiracy is not something we see every day." He turned to Razkar. "And an apex hunter defending her with his life. That is something we have never seen." Razkar lowered his head slightly in respect, but his eyes stayed focused. The commander continued, "Your actions prevented a war. You saved not only this academy, but possibly the future of human and pre-doc relations." Lyra felt her cheeks warm. "I just did what was right." "That is exactly why you succeeded," the commander said. "You both will be honored, and effective immediately. You are assigned as the first human pre-doc joint task pair. There are still regime cells out there. We need your strength." Lyra looked at Razkar. He looked back. She smiled. "I guess we're partners now." For the first time, Razkar gave a real smile. "Yes, until the stars grow silent." Lyra stood tall, no longer feeling like the smallest recruit. She felt strong, brave, and ready for whatever came next, and with Razkar by her side. She knew the galaxy would never look at humans the same way again.